Oh boy, is Silo getting good? Let's talk about season 2, episode 4, the Harmonium. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass, and today I'm here to talk to you about Silo season 2, episode 4, the Harmonium, coming to Apple TV Plus on December 6, 2024. This is a longer episode. Silo season 2 has been trending slower. This one is 55 minutes long. There is plenty going on here. There is a lot of intrigue, a lot of drama, and some really exciting moments. So, I definitely think you should watch this episode. I think it's a really good episode. It gives us updates on both of the storylines with a lot of new intrigue, a lot of new danger, and some progress with Juliette and Solo in Silo 17. So I definitely think you should check it out. It has been a good season so far. This is no different. I am very excited to see where this goes. So all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the episode, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this episode, you might not. There are some big surprises and a really good ending. I would turn off when I get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So, in Silo episode 4, remember at the end of episode 3, the big reveal was Solo decided to leave his vault, show himself to Juliette. It had been a while since he'd seen someone, but it seemed like Solo wanted to help Juliette in her quest. And meanwhile, over in the old Silo, there was some unrest building. There was some, discord being sown, and it culminated with one of the people in Mechanical Cooper getting shot as they were trying to free someone from prison. So that is what happened in the last episode. This episode continues both of those storylines and adds a whole lot of new drama and intrigue, especially in the old Silo. So, things I liked about this episode. The first, I still love the world, and I love that they are using both of the silos. Remember, episode 1 was only Silo 17. Episode 2 was only the old Silo. Now they're mixing it. They're giving us information in both, which I love. It keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting, lets you keep jumping back and forth, and doesn't let you get bored with any single storyline. That's kind of related to the second thing I loved. I love the two storylines. I love that they are kind of continuing them both, and they're both interesting. It's not like one is stalling. They are both very interesting. They're both very different. They have different aspects to them, and I love that you get to see both of them interwoven throughout. The third thing I love the intrigue, especially in the old Silo. There are definitely some plots in the works as there's damage control being done, as they're trying to like consolidate power, as different parts of the Silo are trying to rise up and others are trying to suppress them. There's a lot going on, and I really enjoyed it. The fourth thing I loved, this had a little bit of a different aspect to it. This episode had some underwater scenes, and they were really fun. They're really interesting to see. I like that the Silo team, the Silo, showrunners took this on, add like a different part of how this series is filmed, and it looks fantastic. It's not a huge part of it, but it was an impressive part of it. And the last thing I love the ending. It definitely makes me want to see what happens in the next episode. Makes me want to continue on this journey and figure out where it's going. So, all that being said, things I didn't love as much, very minor, very minor. There's an imbalance in the storylines here. This episode is much heavier on the old Silo than on Silo 17. The old Silo is probably, I don't know, three-quarters of this episode, maybe two-thirds of this episode, and Silo 17 is a shorter aspect of it. But I bet that will ebb and flow. I bet there will be other episodes where Silo 17 is the focus. This one, there's just so much intrigue and so much drama going on in the old Silo, they just focused on that. So, all that being said, Season 2, Episode 4 comes to Apple TV Plus on December 6, 2024. Definitely think you should watch it. Definitely think you should watch this series. If you haven't seen Silo, it's very good. Start with the first season, build your way up here. Season 2 has been really good so far, and it feels like it's just going to get better. So definitely jump on that Silo train. Definitely jump on that. I don't think they have elevators, but that elevator up to the top layers of the Silo, whatever you want to call it, get on board because it is really good. So I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So again, this episode has two storylines. They kind of interweave. There's a little chunk here, a little chunk there, a little chunk here, a little chunk there. I'm just going to go chronologically in either Silo. So I'll start first with Silo 17. Solo and Juliet are talking, and Juliet is trying to figure out how to make a breathing apparatus. She needs to get a new suit so she can go back to her old Silo and warn them about the dangers of trying to leave the Silo. And unfortunately, her suit was destroyed when she ripped it off because she couldn't breathe and she needed air. So she basically like, ripped it off when she got to the new Silo. So she needs a new suit. And Solo's idea was you could use a firefighter suit. That might help. So she needs to get a firefighter suit, but it is the place where she might get it is underwater. So she needs to get some sort of breathing apparatus to be able to get underwater and get out of there. Now, she needs a place to work. She needs a place to figure out what to do. And so they use a chalkboard. It has a ton of different 6-digit combinations on it. And she's like, what are these? And so I was like, I don't know. You can erase it. So she erases a good chunk of it. I don't feel like she should have erased that. I feel like that was all good information that she should have preserved. It probably is a vault code for getting into the Solo's vault. That was just my initial guess, but we don't know exactly what it is. But it seems like there was a lot of effort put into that. And she just erases a good chunk of it. She doesn't erase all of it, but she erases a good chunk as she's trying to figure out this breathing apparatus. Now, Solo is kind of rambling a little bit, and as he's telling Juliette about stuff, he seems to reference things that he should not have known, like either being in class with someone who was like very young at the time, and maybe he is too old for that, or maybe like it was a long time ago and he wouldn't have been alive. It feels like Solo has some disconnect in his past and his memory. You don't get a ton of information about it, but it is like a passing reference as they're talking. Now, as Juliet's trying to figure out an air device, Solo is playing this organ. And Juliet's like, can you please stop? And Solo's actually pretty good at it. He's just like playing this organ. And he's like, I'm trying to tell you something. And she's like, just stop playing. I can't think. And he's like, just keep listening. And eventually it comes out that he was like, look, this is like an organ. There's an air pump to it. So we can use that to pump air to you. And that's how we can get you air. Juliette likes the idea. They have to unfortunately take apart the organ. We don't know if we can put it back together, but look, Juliette needs this suit, so Solo agrees. They take apart the organ and rig it to give air. So basically, they take whatever the bellows is at the bottom, and they're going to use that to pump air through a hose so that Juliette can breathe underwater. It's a pretty rudimentary device. I don't really understand why they need to pump it. I guess because it's not going to be attached, it has to continually pump because then the water will be clearing, and Juliette's not going to get a mouthful of water. But it doesn't seem like it's a very complicated device. But in any event, it's basically like bellows that Solo is pushing with a hose that's going to go underwater. Now, Juliette goes underwater and she has a heavy weight to make sure she doesn't surface again. And she goes down there. It's slow going because she has this heavy weight. She's taking breaths from this air. And it's a very quick scene. Like, I expected her to go like 100 feet underwater. Slow progress. No, she basically goes underwater, goes through a door, looks up, and there's an air pocket there. And so she then tries to go up to it. Unfortunately for her, the hose doesn't go all the way, so she can't pull the hose with her. And that weight gets caught on that door. So as she's trying to surface, she basically goes down, moves over like 7 feet, and then jumps up, tries to get to the surface. Her weight that she's tied to gets caught in the door, so she can't fully surface. She's like reaching up. She grabs like a jagged metal piece that's over there and cuts the weight off and barely makes it out before she suffocates. But again, it didn't like. I felt like if she would have gone underwater first, looked around, to be like, oh, look, it's right there. I can just do that. We don't have to go through this whole weird breathing apparatus thing. If she would have done a little bit of scouting, she would have been able to figure out she didn't need any of this stuff, and she wouldn't have had this danger. But it is what it is. Now, Julia gets to the fire station, the fire lockers, opens them, and finally finds a fire suit. So she gets that, she puts it on, she comes back, and Solo has been pumping this entire time. He doesn't know what's happening, but all he knows is he has to keep pumping, or else Juliet's not going to be able to breathe. So, but he starts to get nervous. He starts to get nervous, like, oh no, did I not lock the vault? Like, I'm not sure if I locked the vault. This happened earlier. He freaked out about that, and Juliet's like, no, you did lock the vault. It's fine. But now, as this whole thing is progressing, Solo gets more and more nervous, and basically when Juliette finally resurfaces, he freaks out and runs back to the vault to make sure it's locked. It's locked. Juliette follows him. But then Solo tries to get back into the vault, and it's not opening. He tries his combination, it doesn't work. He tries his combination, and it doesn't work. And Solo gets very paranoid about this. He thinks that Juliette messed with the vault so that he wouldn't be able to go back, and like the vault was safe, and he was happy there, and now he's like nervous to be out. And if he doesn't get the combination on this last time, he's gonna be locked out of the vault forever. I guess it's like a 3 attempts and you fail type situation. So Juliet's like, how would I have done anything? You've been with me the whole time. Like, what would I have possibly done? And then Solo finally like puts in the combination. The vault goes in, the vault unlocks. He goes in and then closes it and says like, stay out. So Juliette is confused by this. She's sitting there. She's like talking to the vault, like basically talking to Solo, but he's not answering. And eventually After a little bit of this, he opens the vault and it looks like he wants to talk. So it feels like Solo is going to be a difficult character to deal with. He is helpful at times, but then he also like freaks out and gets paranoid about things and other times. I don't know why he's so worried about locking the vault. There's no one else here. Maybe there are. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe there are people here. We just haven't seen them yet. I guess we'll find out. So that is the Silo 17 side of things. On the Silo original side of things, Knox and Shirley are planning. They're in like the below, I don't know, the like the mines, I think, essentially, the lower levels of the silo. And on the wall, there's all these names of people. And as they're talking, they're saying all these people are different people that started rebellions. And it seems like Mechanical was either behind all the rebellions or at least to blame. Every rebellion, every person's name has something related to Mechanical. So it seems like Mechanical has either been the cause of all of these rebellions in the past or the scapegoat. And so they want to figure out what to do. They want to squash all this beef. So they decide to get a meeting with Meadows. Now, Bernard gets mad at Meadows for allowing this. And she's like, I'm their judge. They have a right to meet with me. And he also gets mad at Meadows for hearing the appeal of Lucas Kyle, who was Juliet's old like friend who helped her in IT to hack the IT systems and eventually like unlock this hard drive artifact. He is being sentenced to the mines. He's appealing it. Meadows is going to hear his appeal, and Bernard is mad about both of these. And Meadows is like, look, they both have a right. But I think really what we get the context here is that she is trying to force the issue. She's trying to force Bernard to give her what she wants. And instead of do and to like get some leverage, she is entertaining these dissidents, essentially, these like people who are causing problems in the silo to force his hand and make him give her her suit. Now, Sims is very worried that he is losing influence here and that Meadows is gaining it. And so he is trying to make a power play here. And his thought is, I'm going to impeach Meadows, or at least I'm going to put the bug of impeaching Meadows out there. And that will be enough to make Bernard act and potentially remove Meadows or quell that unrest. And that'll put me right back at the side there. Now, Meadows first hears Lucas Kyle's petition. This is, again, Juliette's tech friend who helped her with that artifact. She doesn't grant the appeal. And then they talk about like the lights in the night sky. And she's like, what do you think they are? And he basically, talks about how they're like some sort of like burning objects and how it seems, they don't move. The earth moves. The earth rotates. It's a ball. And it's the same thing with the sun. Like the sun doesn't move. The earth moves. Basically like a Copernicus kind of argument. But a big one because they don't teach this kind of stuff in the silo. That is old knowledge, that is foreign knowledge. They don't teach that here. Now, Meadows then, like, in a moment of clarity, tells him that, like, all of this stuff. He's like, they're actually balls of gas. They're, whatever, far away. This, you're right. The sun doesn't move. The earth revolves around the sun. She basically, like, confirms all of his theories. And he's like, that's amazing. Like, how do you know all this? And he starts asking more questions. And when he starts asking more questions, she shuts him down and then basically, calls in the guards and's like, in light of your, cooperation, I'm reducing your sentence from the mines to 5 years. So I think it was maybe 10 years before. Now it's 5 years. And he's like very confused, like, what's going on? What's going on? And they take him away. And then we see impeachment banners outside of her window. It looks like Sim's plan is in progress. Actually, Meadows goes to confront Bernard about the impeachment. Bernard just learned about it. So he like is like, I'd heard about it, but I don't know anything about it. And she says she doesn't care. She doesn't care who's involved because she'll be long gone before anything happens. And then Bernard invites her to his apartment to talk later that night. A romantic dinner? Maybe. Meadows comes over and Bernard is making dinner. It's very sweet. He's very nice to her. But then as they're eating, she starts like reacting. She starts coughing and we find out that Bernard poisoned her mushrooms. And she's like, why? And he's like, I'm doing this to unite the silo. Basically, he needs a sacrificial lamb to unite the silo and kind of unify the people against someone. And Meadows is going to be that sacrifice. So it's very sad because it seems like Bernard and her have a long history. It seems like they were very, very, very close a long time ago. Now, she says basically that she doesn't have much time, and she asks if Bernard remembers Salvador Quinn, who was someone in IT 140 years ago during a rebellion. He wrote a letter, and she deciphered the letter. And Bernard's like, tell me, what was in it? What was in it? You have to tell me. And she's like, I can't tell you. So it seems like that knowledge is going to die with her, although maybe Bernard will start looking into it after this. And then she goes into some past history. She says, remember 25 years ago when you asked me to be your shadow and I said I didn't want to be tethered to you? That was not true. I did want to be tethered to you, but I knew that you would never be fully be able to commit to me. So it seems like she knew that the silo would always come first, and she would never be his first priority. So that's why they broke up. I don't know if they were dating, whatever. They broke up at that point. Bernard seems to soften at this, and he then pulls out like a little VR headset that he has. I guess it's an old artifact, and shows Meadows the VR headset of like it's like visions of outside. I think it's like a jungle or something like that. And he has her like look around to see different things, like I think a red snake and a bird and something like that. And she is like enthralled by all of this. It's a very sweet gesture, but he did kill her, and then she eventually dies. Now, Bernard then gets Sims over there and like tells him, "You know what to do. Do it exactly like I told you to." Now, meanwhile, Billings is investigating uh the shooting of Cooper at that like not prison break, but at that demonstration, and he's trying to figure out what happened. We find out that Reggie, the person that Sims had recruited earlier, was the person that shot Cooper, and the person who threw the bomb, the person who threw that Molotov cocktail, no one recognized. Now Billing goes up to look for Cooper's body, and it's gone. There are no bodies up there. Apparently, there were two before. There was Cooper's, and then some other person, this like long-haired person that seems to match the description of the person that threw the bomb. They are both gone. Billings is continuing his investigation. He calls Molly and he says, when you were trying to get Nichols, to arrest Nichols, you took two men into custody, Danny something and Patrick Kennedy, right? Kennedy had a big beard and long hair. So it seems like this person that threw the firebomb was actually taken into custody when they were trying to get Nichols. And that is the person that it seems like was given a deal. I think Sims gave him a deal earlier on. We didn't know what that person was going to do. And it seems like that person was recruited by Sims to throw that firebomb and cause some of this unrest. So while all of this is happening, Mechanical is going up for their meeting with Meadows. Kyle already had his meeting. Now Mechanical's going up. And as they're going up, a guard escorts them because there is some unrest here. The people of the upper levels of the silo don't want Mechanical to come up there. They don't want Mechanical to like cause more problems. They basically say like, if you want to see the judge, you'll have to come through us. And Mechanical has a plan. They brought some balls. And so one of them drops a red ball over the side. It falls all the way down to Mechanical, bounces off, maybe hits someone. I mean, it looks very dangerous. But when they get this red ball, they shut off the power to the silo. And Mechanical's like, "Look, we'll shut the power. We'll turn the power back on after we meet with Judge Meadows." So they have a lot of power here, and they are flexing it. Well, a lot of power, figurative and literal power, and they are flexing it. So while this is happening, Bernard comes to the crowd and says, "Judge Meadows is not feeling well, but he can take them to see the judge if they turn the lights back on." Mechanical is okay with this. They drop a green ball, the lights come back on, and Bernard takes him. But before he goes in, he insists that just Knox and Shirley go. So Knox and Shirley go into the office, and when they get there, they see Sim standing in front of the desk. He moves aside, and Judge Meadows is like in her chair with a knife in her chest, dead. Knox says they set us up and they have to get going. They have to leave because and so they leave, they head back to their group. They don't run because they don't want to cause a scene. They walk back to their group, tell them we gotta go, and they all start heading down to the lower levels of the silo. Now, Bernard's like, "Sims, you better get them. You're giving them a head start. You better hurry." And so Sims then goes out and says, makes a speech about how Mechanical killed Judge Meadows. They came for a meeting and they murdered her. They want to open the airlock, and Meadows refused, and so they killed her because of it. And he says it is now the duty of every citizen to find those murderers and bring them to justice. So the mob, everyone that was gathered from the upper levels, starts chanting, "Justice, justice, justice." And we see them start descending the stairs, and we see Mechanical a few levels in front of them descending the stairs too. We will see what happens, but it seems like there might be some mob justice in our future. And it seems like when Bernard wanted to unify the silo, he was unifying them against Mechanical. I don't think that's going to go well because it feels like Mechanical has a lot of power, as they showed. But that seems to be what happens. But that is Silo episode 4. So what do we think will happen next? Well, on the Juliette and Solo side, I feel like they'll continue. I feel like they will continue working on her suit. Solo will have some issues. I think at some point, though, Solo is going to get locked out. He's either going to forget the combination or something is going to change. And he's going to need those numbers from that chalkboard. And that is how he's going to get back in there. Maybe when he gets back in there, Juliette will come to and we can see what's on the other side of the vault, see what happens there. But I feel like they're going to continue working on the suit. Juliette will maybe come back, and maybe she will come back just in time to quell this insane unrest that's happening. Now, over on the Silo side, Meadows is dead. They need a new judge. I don't know who they're going to appoint. Maybe Billings? Maybe Sims? I don't know. I don't know who they're going to appoint. But also, Mechanical is now fleeing. They're heading to the lower levels, and they have a mob following them. What's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, Mechanical has a lot of power. The mob can't take out all of Mechanical. They could probably take out Nox and Shirley, but I feel like Mechanical would be very upset about that. They don't need all those luxuries that the upper levels have. They can get by with much, much less. They do get by with much, much less. So they could turn off the power and be like, hey, you guys wanted this. Here you go. That could cause some more unrest. That could cause some big upheavals in the silo, but I guess we'll see. I guess we'll first see if the mob catches Shirley and Knox. I don't think they will. They had a head start, and they are young, fit people. Maybe the older people, though, the two older ladies were also with them. I don't know if they can keep up, so maybe they'll get taken by the mob, and there'll be some sort of like prisoner hostage here, prisoner exchange here going on. I don't know. All that could happen, but that is Silo episode 4. Like I said, definitely check it out. It is very good. It has been getting very good. So definitely watch it on December 6th, 2024. Catch up with the rest of Silo. Make sure to stay up to date because this season has started off with a bang, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So if you do watch it, though, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.